I have my coffee, we have an old axe, and I have my kid. What's up guys, Dan here, Coalcracker Bushcraft. So today we're upgrading Jax's axe to this old thing. So it's old, it's a little bit beat up, but it's a really good high quality axe. It's a Hults Bruk axe, and he wanted an upgrade. Why'd you want an upgrade?
My head is falling off the handle.
So he was at our advanced bushcraft last year, and at that course we give axe heads out and then we rehandle them in the field. But what happens when you rehandle an axe in the field, it's a temporary solution because generally you're going to use green wood, and as it dries you have to make sure that you are continuously working with it and then adding new wedges and stuff like that, which we didn't do because we knew at some point we'd be upgrading. So I said, let's not buy a new axe, let's take an older axe, and then he can get very close and comfortable with this thing by restoring it. So let me go over everything we're going to do with this, and then we'll show you some of the clips, and then we'll show you what it looks like after. But I gotta drink my coffee because it's early and we gotta knock this project out. We have a lot to do today.
Yeah.
All right, so again, Hults Bruk axe. I'm sorry, but I am not 100% sure on what exact model this is, but I've had this axe for some time. I used it quite much over the years. It was in our trapping sled. It spent a lot of time at the yurt, just a lot of time out in the weather, and it's still holding up really well. But then what happened was I just put it off to the side for years and I didn't do much with it. So along comes my son, he needs an upgrade. So I said, this is gonna be a good one for him. So what do we have to do with this axe overall to get it back in tip-top shape? Well, first of all, you can use this axe today. I mean, it still has somewhat of an edge on it. You can see it's a little bit rusty. Handle still very good condition. Sheath still very usable, but we're gonna clean it up so it looks a little bit better. Finding axes at yard sales and flea markets and even online like Etsy and eBay, you might get something like this quite cheap, and then you can clean it up and it'll be good to go. So rather than the whole just buy an axe head, put a handle on, sometimes you can go this route and you'll be fine. The biggest thing you always want to take in consideration, make sure that the head is on good and tight, it's not moving around, which this one is. And then we can work through the whole thing. So what I'm gonna first have them do is take some sandpaper. We're gonna sand out the handle. Nothing overly crazy here. Just, I don't even wanna say it's too bad, but we're gonna just get some of this scruff off of this thing, and then we will retreat this with our boiled linseed oil and turpentine mixture. The axe head itself, it does have some surface rust on there, so we'll see what we can use to get that surface rust off. Worst case scenario, we take it down to our grinding room and we use some heavy duty tools on it, and then we will have him resharpen this thing. As far as for the sheath goes, we're gonna make a whole new sheath at some point, but I think today, as I was looking at this, we're gonna take out these rivets here, and then we're gonna take away the rope portion, and we're gonna put a snap portion in there, and it'll temporarily be good, and we can retreat the leather and all that good stuff, and then he will go out and we'll do a little chopping with it, and we'll be happy campers. So let's get this project underway. All right, first step, we're gonna use 220 grit sandpaper. Just take a light coat of this off. We just wanna get the scum off. So he's gonna just work on that nice and light here and get that taken care of. And then while he's doing that, I'm gonna pop the rivets out of that sheath and we'll start getting that going. So 2 for 1 here. So let's have you try drilling one. So we're not gonna go ahead. We're not gonna go overly crazy, just enough you saw when yep, just make sure, yep, it's straight up and down. There you go. A little bit of pressure. All right, stop. So you see how we could still see the silver there?
Yeah.
So we got to just keep going. You got to get a little bit more of that removed. Straight up and down. There you go. Good, good. As soon as you notice, you see how like leather started getting cut? You're probably far enough through.
Okay.
All right. So you see how there's like a little gap here now? You got to get underneath there without cutting my fingers off. So you're not, yeah, you're just getting the plier underneath the rivet, and we're popping it that way. Big Dog's gonna have to take over on this one to get down in there. He just can't get his, there. So see, pops right out, a little bit of force. So we'll get it, let's do the rest.
All right, so I finished up sanding the handle here, as you can see, and I finished doing the sheath, pulling all the grommets, whatever, out. Rivets out of the sheath. So yeah, I finished this up and this up, and now my dad's gonna tell you what we're gonna do.
So we're gonna take, next we're gonna do is we're gonna take this sheath while we work on the head of this, and we're gonna put some conditioner on it because it is pretty dry. So I'm gonna let Jax rub this in real good. All right, so go ahead, you're gonna take a little bit in your fingers there, and you're just gonna work it in.
Like that?
Yep, and you can always add more. And you're gonna work it through the whole thing. At this point, now we're gonna work on the head of the axe and get that thing cleaned up. So with surface rust like this, a couple things you can do. We're gonna just start with a Scotch Brite pad. You wanna go grab that green pad? We're gonna start with that and see if it'll come off that way. If it won't come off that way, I'm gonna add a little bit of oil to it and try it that way. If it still won't come off, then we're gonna just use a wire brush wheel on there on the grinder and get that cleaned up, and then we'll go to the sharpening phase. What we don't wanna do is we don't wanna take this to the point that we take off all the bluing and stuff that has been placed on here from the factory. So we just really wanna get just that surface rust off and be done. All right, so stop 1 second. So you can see here as Jack's going, it is taking that surface rust off for the most part. So I'm gonna have him work that out the best he can, and then we'll do the oil and Scotch Brite. That's gonna just help bring that out a little bit more, and then we'll see from there. I think we're gonna be good. We won't have to do any machine grinding or anything on that. All right, so as you can see here, he's pretty far along with the overall, stop 1 second, with the overall getting most of this crud off, okay? So we're just gonna add a little bit of oil here and see where we're at with it. I'm not overly concerned with the bit because he has to sharpen that. So we're gonna give it a little, I consider this more like a wet type grinding, and we'll see now what we got going on. Just nice and consistent pressure through that, and it should start popping a little bit more. Let's take a look at it, just even with that little bit. So you can see it's really getting nice and cleaned up there. So it's cleaned up pretty well on both sides. It came out nice. So here's where we're gonna give them the option. So behind where the bit, I'm not too worried the bit because that had the heaviest surface rust. So we're gonna literally put that on the grinder. It'll speed the process up so much for us. Behind that though, their original grind line, you wanna keep that more rustic and a little worn, or do you want to make that real shiny?
More rustic.
So if you, so we're gonna keep it the way it is right now, some patina and stuff built in that. If you were doing this yourself and you wanted to get this cleaned up more, you'd have to take some like wet dry sandpaper and then just start to work that section, and that would clean that up more. But I agree, I like it a little bit more like this. And there's nothing else wrong with the head that we have to go, and it's not mushroomed in the back or anything like that. So we're gonna head down to the grinder in a minute. Let me see that a second there, buddy. So what we're doing now is we're actually taking most of that surface rust off. As you can hear with the belt grinder, Jax doesn't have it running real hard right now. We have a very fine grip belt off, and that's just taking off that little bit of rust that was on the bit. He's following the line that the original grind was on. It's almost like the magic marker trick, but we had, in our case, surface rust. So he's working back and forth both sides with that, keeping it nice and consistent. You got it? Yep. So he's going to continue that. He has used a grinder a bunch of times already, making knives and stuff like that. So he's pretty consistent with it. But again, you just want to make sure you keep a nice, consistent grind across there, and then we can put the final sharpening on after this.
As you can see, I moved from the wheel here up onto the belt itself, and the reason why I did that is because it has a little bit more slack to give you a little bit more of a sharper edge. Okay, so I finished grinding with a 600 grit belt, and as you can see, here's my grind line. And I tried to keep that as consistent as possible, as you can see. And here's my little rustic part here. So the next step is to oil our handle.
All right, so as Jack said when we were in the sharpening room, we're gonna treat the handle next. So what we like to use here, boiled linseed oils is a great option, but adding turpentine to the mixture helps dry this out. You see all this crud on top? That is boiled linseed oil. When it dries out, it gets a sticky film to it. And the last thing that we want on axe handles is any type of stickiness, because that's when you would get blisters and uncomfortability when using the axe itself. So adding some turpentine to that, it helps wonders. You don't have to, but we have a big tub of it made up. So I'm gonna get the tub out. Jax is gonna apply it. We're gonna let it sit for a while. It'll naturally dry itself out and keep the boiled linseed oil soaked into the wood. And then once all that's done, we're very close to the final step. All right, so the sheath, you see how much better this looks already, okay? So what we're gonna do now, I already did it on one side, is I remove this back hole. And the reason why we're removing that is, again, we're gonna put a snap on here rather than the tie out. So we don't need both those holes. So I cut this one off, and then we're gonna finish up by cutting this side off, and then Jax will reassemble this whole sheath.
So what I'm gonna do now is I'm actually gonna size this strap for my axe, and how we're gonna mark it is when I got to the point that I want to, I'm just gonna push it down, and it's gonna make a mark from this. So we're gonna go ahead and size this. I want it about right there. I'm gonna go ahead and just give it a little nudge, and then we're gonna have a mark. Okay, so we have our snap on there. Of course, our Coalcracker Bushcraft snap. So we're gonna go ahead and put that on there. Let's get this in here. Then we're gonna come around from the back and push that on there. And now we have a nice working sheath.
All right, so our axe is almost complete. We just have to use it out in the woods now. You can see it cleaned up really well. The bit looks really nice. Nice edge on it, treatment on the handles, good and dry. What we decided was, before we do a very final sharpening, we're gonna go out and use it, because it's really sharp now. So with him not super experienced with an axe, we're gonna go out, we're gonna mess around with it a little bit and see how it's working for him, and then we can make a decision how much sharper we wanna get it. Sheath came out really nice, so the whole thing put together, it really cleaned up well. Jax did a good job on it overall, so this is what we got. And we're gonna head out, new axe. Let's go see how it cuts.
Yay.
All right, guys, so we're out in the woods. Jack's got the axe. First hit with the new axe, so we're gonna open this up. Good, safe position, okay? And he's gonna give it a little choppy chop. We'll see how it's looking here. Gotta give it a little bit more oomph there, kid. There you go. Now we got wood chips flying. Good. All right, that's good. All right, how's that feel?
Good.
Feeling good?
Uh-huh.
Go ahead. All right, guys, and there you go. That is our axe restoration project for today. Now the kid has a new axe to enjoy in the outdoors, and I had a fun time doing it. Plus, we have another axe yielder because we like axes here at Coalcracker, so you got to start them young. So good project.
Yeah.
Good project. So if you like this video, hit like and subscribe down below. You can also check us out at coalcrackerbushcraft.com for all our classes, our gear, and our blog. And until the next video, stay in the woods.